Then he only understands force, and he proved it once again. No words, no diplomacy, without being backed by long-range missiles and air defense systems, will be able to accomplish the task of forcing Russia to peace. In Volodymyr Zelensky's opinion, Moscow deserves the world's harshest pressure. The president of Ukraine spoke about this at the UN General Assembly as well. But most of the attention there was focused on the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, and this meeting definitely exceeded all expectations. TSN's own correspondent, Olga Koshelenko, witnessed this very tense UN anniversary and saw some interesting details up close.
The United Nations is criticized for its helplessness and inability to fulfill its functions, and yet, every year, such a number of world politicians come to New York for the high-level General Assembly that you probably won't see anywhere else in the world. And it's not just a formality. In a limited amount of time, you can hold an extraordinary number of bilateral meetings here. It's the most expensive negotiation platform in the world, where the number of VIPs per square meter is off the charts, and top officials can once again blend in as ordinary passers-by in the crowd. Here is Turkish President Recep Erdogan surrounded by security guards. It's only about 20 meters to the Turkish delegation's office, but the road has been blocked for a delegation's motorcade. The leader is displeased, and the security tries to force their way through the obstacle. But they are stopped by the New York police. French President Emmanuel Macron, finding himself in a similar situation, first tries to negotiate with the police officers.
I'm very, very sorry indeed, Mr. President.
After failing, he calls his friend Donald directly.
Guess what happened? I'm stuck in the middle of the street because everything's been blocked off for you.
For making his guests wait, Donald Trump was avenged by the escalator at headquarters. As soon as the First Lady and the President stepped onto the escalator, it stopped. Later, the White House would demand an investigation and consider this almost an attempt on the lives of the top officials. Secretary Tuonu, during an internal investigation, found out that the person responsible for the incident was the personal operator of the American president. Here he is, running up the escalator the wrong way, and that's supposedly why the stop mechanism was triggered. So by the time Trump arrived at the assembly hall, he was already agitated, and then another twist. The teleprompter wasn't working. He had to read part of his speech from notes.
I don't care anymore who's operating that teleprompter, but they've got a big problem.
But what Trump will say from
the podium about his former, until recently, friend Vladimir was not improvisation, but a new official position, a presentation he had saved for this major international gathering.
Everyone thought that Russia would win this war in 3 days. But things didn't turn out as expected. It was supposed to be a quick clash, and this does not reflect well on Russia. It looks bad for them.
Later, at a meeting with the president of Ukraine, Trump will call Zelensky a brave man and say that he admires Ukraine's fight and will continue to criticize Russia. Most of all,
the main progress is that the Russian economy is in a terrible state. As you know, it is not collapsing, and frankly, Ukraine is doing very well and is holding back a very large army. That's extraordinary.
15 minutes after the meeting with Zelensky ended, a post appeared on Trump's Truth Social page, personally signed by him. Usually this means that the president himself wrote it, not members of his team. One might have thought that Trump's page had been hacked. The message says that Ukraine is capable of reclaiming all its territories and even going further.
When the residents of Moscow and all the big cities, towns and regions across Russia find out what is really happening with this war, they will hardly be able to refuel their cars because of the long lines, not to mention all the other things happening in their war economy, where most of the money is being spent on fighting Ukraine, which has great spirit and is only getting stronger. Ukraine will be able to restore its country to its original form. And who knows, maybe even go further.
When it comes to Donald Trump, such moods are common, like, you have no cards. Ukraine can reclaim all its territories and might even go further, moving forward without much hesitation. But if you manage to catch the right phase of the internal state of the President of the United States, you can actually achieve something. At the very least, world leaders are trying to do just that. So at the meeting, Zelensky carefully complained to Trump about his friend, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who, despite the United States' insistence on refusing Russian energy supplies, still wants to buy from Putin.
Mr. President, we support your idea. I want to talk about how to stop European countries from being able to buy Russian oil and gas. I had a conversation with the Prime Minister of Slovakia. It was a good conversation. I think they need alternative routes and they support this idea. I'm not sure the Hungarians are ready, but we'll think about it in the future.
This week, Trump had two opportunities to demonstrate in practice the art of making deals with countries that continue to buy Russian energy resources. After the UN General Assembly, Turkish President Erdogan came to the White House. He listened impassively to the host's remark that refusing to trade with Putin would be beneficial and left it unanswered. But Trump has a real lever of influence. Erdogan wants to buy American F-35 fighter jets. Turkey was removed from the list of buyers in 2019 after Ankara purchased Russian S-400 air defense systems capable of shooting down American planes. These sanctions can be lifted if you give up Russian oil and gas, Trump hinted bluntly. Erdogan left to think it over.
He is a wonderful president, a very smart man. He will do the right thing. We had a very good conversation regarding the purchase of military equipment.
But as for Orban, Trump not only failed to convince him, as a result, he started repeating after him that there is no alternative to Russian oil for Hungary and Slovakia. So for now, there is no progress here. The next topic of discussion is new sanctions that the United States could impose on Russia. Again, there were no breakthroughs. Trump expects that Europe will increase the pressure from its side. But what comes next is the most interesting part. Another request from Zelensky to Trump was made during the closed part of their conversation. He hinted at it in an interview with Axios.
What is the one big thing, the real thing? Not in the open part of the conversation. What would you like to get from Donald Trump in order to win on the battlefield? I think President Trump knows. I told him yesterday. And what is it? I won't tell you what it is, but I will say that he replied, "We will work on it." Is it some kind of weapon that you need? Yes, and by the way, just because we absolutely need it, that doesn't necessarily mean we will actually use it.
This puzzle was deciphered by the British The Telegraph. Zelensky asked the United States to deploy their Tomahawk cruise missiles on Ukrainian territory as a means of deterrence and to force Putin to negotiate. Another very significant achievement. The Wall Street Journal claims that Trump is allegedly not opposed to lifting restrictions on the use of American long-range weapons. Back in the spring, the administration banned Ukraine from using ATAK-MS to strike Russia. But next week, according to the article citing American and European officials, Ukrainian high-ranking officials will come to negotiate on this issue with the head of the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth. When asked what exactly changed Trump's mind about him and Ukraine's chances of winning the war, Zelensky just smiles.
That's my dialogue with President Trump. I want it to remain between us. The administration says it's not the right time yet.
American journalists questioned their sources in the administration, and those sources suggest the biggest factor in changing course was that Putin did nothing after the Alaska red carpet and generous offers of cooperation from Trump, as well as Special Representative Kit Kellogg and Ambassador Shavon Michael Waltz, who came to the president in time with analytics showing that the Russians' gains on the battlefield are insignificant compared to the resources invested in the war. And the lines at gas stations all over Russia, as well as the ban on the export of petroleum products extended until the end of the year, speak volumes about the state of the economy.
Things are going frankly badly for them, considering they've put everything on the line. Their economy is going to hell. They're bombing everything indiscriminately and capturing very little territory. If they're capturing anything at all, in fact, they've actually lost some territory, so I think this is very bad for Russia's reputation. This war should have ended. If this were our war, we would have ended it in a week. But they're entering their 4th year. 4 years of fighting.
Putin, who is always in an uncertain situation, has frozen. His spokesperson, Peskov, cautiously said that now it's their turn to convey their position to the American authorities. Foreign Minister Lavrov met with Secretary of State Sharubio in New York. But it's clear that Putin will also try to regain the favor of his friend Donald. Trump himself hasn't completely closed that door either. When asked if he still trusts Putin, he said, "I'll let you know in a month." Olga Koshelenko, Maxim Shinkarenko, New York, Washington, TSN Week, 1+1 Marathon. The only news.
International law does not work today. Security guarantees exist only for those who have strong allies and their own weapons. President Zelensky openly stated this from the UN General Assembly podium. He called for the creation of global rules for the use of artificial intelligence in weaponry and to stop Putin before it is too late, and also announced the export of cutting-edge Ukrainian weapons. The president also made several other important statements in an interview with the American publication Axios. In particular, he said that he does not recognize the occupied territories as belonging to Russia, but if a ceasefire were declared tomorrow, he would agree to freeze everything along the current front line. And Ukraine would reclaim its lands later through diplomatic means. And in the president's opinion, this would be a good compromise. When asked whether he plans to remain president in peacetime as well, Zelensky replied that he is ready not to run for another presidential term if the war with Russia can be ended. And on Saturday, at a briefing, he revealed some details of his conversation with Trump. He said that if the Russians threaten a blackout, for example, in the capital of Ukraine, then the Kremlin must know that there will be a blackout in the capital of Russia as well. Russia must understand that civilized countries differ from some others in that they never strike first and are not aggressors, but that does not mean they are weak, and one should not show weakness.